Hi everybody, it's Carrie from the Westport Library with your Mind Body Minute. Today I want to talk a little bit about the imbalances that stress and trauma can cause in our nervous system and offer a couple simple techniques to help bring a little bit of balance back into the body. So in a nutshell, our peripheral nervous system has two main parts which create very different physiological responses in our body. So we have our slow lane, or our rest and digest response. And when our body is operating in rest and digest, we feel calm and rested and safe. Our heart rate and our breathing tends to be a little bit slower. We're not producing a lot of adrenaline or stress hormone. And basically the systems of our body are all operating really optimally and they're communicating really well with one another. Then on the other end of the spectrum is our fast lane, or our fight or flight response. Fight or flight response is literally our survival instinct when we're mobilizing energy to either fight off or flee from a perceived threat. A couple really telltale signs are clenched fists and a clenched jawline. Our heart rate and our breathing increases. A lot of adrenaline and cortisol, or stress hormone, is produced in our body. And the psoas muscle is literally our fight or flight muscle. It's directly connected to that fight or flight energy that's mobilized in our brain when we perceive that threat. So it sits roughly kind of right here in the front of our hips, kind of wraps around our back a little bit. And when the psoas muscle gets tight or kind of mobilizes that fight or flight energy, it can impact our lower back, it can impact our hips, it can impact our knees, right? It can also impact our breathing, our diaphragm muscle, our digestive system, just because of where it's sitting in the body. So for this sequence, I'm gonna pull a couple props in. Yoga blocks if you have them, or if you don't, you can get creative and just kind of look around your house and see if you have anything that might be able to simulate yoga blocks. I'm going to use a couple boxes of hot chocolate. Cake mix would work, tall aluminum cans of something, anything with a little stability, a little support that you might be able to just use to kind of extend your arms a little bit. So I'm going to put my hot chocolate right here. Bring my right foot forward and come into a little low lunge position. So I'm going to send that front knee directly over my ankle, and then start to kind of scooch my back knee back a little until I feel a stretch through this area. So it's going to be different for everybody, right? You just want to come into a position where you have a little space, and as you start to lean the hips forward, you begin to feel that stretch. Turning the top of the back foot down if that's available, or you can keep the back toes tucked. Pulling my props in here and just using these props to extend the length of my arms. So instead of reaching down to the floor and kind of closing my heart off here, I'm going to use the props so that as I lean forward and get a nice stretch here, I'm also able to open my heart, keep my throat open, again, unclench my jaw, and just take a couple nice deep belly breaths, right? So finding a position that you can hold where you feel the stretch, but where you're not feeling locked up, right? Making sure you kind of have the ability to release a little bit here. So a couple nice deep belly breaths here, trying to fill this area up with breath as much as you can. And then if you want to add on, right, I'm going to take this arm that's connected to the hip that I'm stretching, give it a little stretch, and send it over. Couple breaths here. And then bring it back, right? Finding my props again, sending them forward now, and then beginning to release, pulling this leg back from the hip, and then just rocking back and forward a few times on my breath. So maybe inhaling as you draw the leg back, exhaling forward. And then straightening that front leg. Right, feel free to keep a little bend in it if you need to support your hamstrings. Softening the weight of my head and coming forward in a forward fold. Forward folding is a great way to start to transition the body over to rest and digest response. Right, so as I soften the weight of the head, unclench my jawline, close my eyes, or just focus my gaze on a spot on the floor, focusing on breathing into the back of the rib cage, into my low belly, and just letting the weight of my head go as much as I can for a few breaths here. And then releasing, pulling that knee back and coming right into the other side. Right, so left foot forward, same thing, leaning forward, taking your props back, opening the heart, softening the jawline, a few breaths here. Adding on. Coming back. And then again, finding the release with my breath. And then straightening that leg, softening the weight of my head, and folding forward for a few nice deep belly breaths here. So just a really simple sequence to help address any excess fight or flight energy that might be stored in your body. Thanks for watching. See you next time.